Name correction.
Good morning to everyone online. Thank you so much for joining us. Please feel free to test your microphone and also let us know if you're having trouble hearing us as well.
I think that's the only thing.
Good morning. I can hear you well.
Good morning.
We need to be flexible on.
Good morning.
I don't know if my ears are stopped
Yeah.
up, but can you make them a little bit louder?
I think it's trying to come right at 9. Sorry, Charlie, no.
Oh. Oh, okay.
I didn't mean to interrupt you. But you know, when he comes, we can introduce him. He can point, and then Van is going to come when he has some.
Is that the loudest it'll be, the way they're talking now? Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Would someone online be willing to test their mic again? We just want to test the volume in the room.
Okay.
This is Janet.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Much better. Thank you so much. Alrighty, we will start in just a few minutes at the top of the hour.
Good morning, can you hear me?
I don't have to do anything.
Good morning. You sound great.
They didn't.
Thank you.
Request the public testimony, so they're just here.
Okay,
That's all.
and
Seated off, can't show.
Camera, please. Yes.
and if
Good morning. Just checking in with our guest identified as E95070023. Could you let us know who you are and also change your name on your Zoom?
He doesn't have a mic.
Yeah, it does now. Oh, looks like they changed the name. Or it disappeared.
I think it was Robert.
Was it Robert?
That was me. I apologize.
You have like an alter ego. No. Thank you, Dr.
Not
Green.
alter ego.
Welcome.
Morning.
Good morning, everyone.
Good morning, Dr. Singh.
Good morning.
Good
We have a member guest who's just arrived, so we're just getting settled in the room and we will begin in just a moment.
All right, we are going to get started. It is 9:02 by my clock. Welcome to our first quarterly meeting of this membership year. We had our last one just under the end of the last membership year at the end of August. So first time we're getting together. As you may recall, we were delayed from our early January meeting to some weather that came in and dumped some snow on North Texas and made it hazardous for me to be here to be in our meeting. So apologize for the rescheduling, and I hope everybody able to be here for the full time, knowing that it was shorter notice than what we anticipated, as we have scheduled these meetings out for the full year to allow maximum participation and minimum conflict. So again, thank you for being here. Reminder, as always, on our Open Meetings Act protocols for our virtual meetings, all members are to maintain quorum, must be visible at all times. Members should be seen clearly, so check your lighting if it looks too dark, and your facial expressions must be visible. And members should only be off camera during breaks and or during our subcommittee work when we go into breakout groups via Zoom. And probably a good point, since we're in a different room and we are using mics that are live all the time and not mics right in front of us. Can you hear me okay? Can I just get a okay if it seems to be coming through good? Excellent, excellent. Thank you for that. And we are expecting the commissioner to join us momentarily. So when that happens, we will probably break with what we're doing and introduce the commissioner and let him address us. But in the meantime, we will go ahead and take roll. Dr. Lofters, would you handle those duties for us, please, sir?
Yes, sir. Good morning, everyone. Good morning. Welcome to a new year of LTAC. Nice to see everybody. So when I call your name, please indicate that you are present. Patrick is here. Charlene is here. Erasmus today. Yeah. Welcome, new member. Welcome to the committee. Janae Higgins.
Here.
Morning. Alicia Lloyd.
Here.
Good morning. Luke Dowden.
I'm here.
And returning to us. Welcome back. Catherine Howard.
I'm here.
Good morning.
Good
And
morning.
former member who is returning back to the LTAC. Good to see you.
Thank you.
Timothy Snyder
He's in the waiting room.
is in the waiting room. I'll come back to him. Robert Green,
I'm here.
good morning. Janet Camps,
Present?
and welcome back to the committee. Nikki Whiteside,
I'm here.
good morning. Oscar Hernandez,
Good morning, I'm here.
good morning. Patricia Abrego,
Here.
good morning.
Good morning.
Michelle Giles,
Here.
good morning.
Good
Pam
morning.
Morgan,
Here.
and welcome back. Ashley Dawkins,
Here, but I do have to leave early to go give a training, so sorry.
all right, good morning. Chrysophides.
Here.
Good morning and welcome. Linda Murphy,
Here.
former member who's returning back. Welcome back. Jeff Friels. Poonam Kumar,
Here.
good morning.
Good morning.
Wade Redmond,
Here.
good morning. Aaron McGough,
Here.
welcome, welcome. Good morning. Michael Robertson. Esmeralda is not gonna be here today. So let me go back one more. We have Timothy Snyder.
Good morning, Andrew. Sorry I was late.
Oh, no, right on time, right on time. Good morning. And Esmeralda? No. Jeff Friels? No. I believe that is it. Patrick, we have quorum. You're ready to continue.
Fantastic, thank you. Everybody should have received a copy of the roster. And if you didn't, we can make sure that gets circulated. But there was a new member orientation that took place in anticipation of our meeting on January 10th. So that was done on January 9th. And Chris was going to be a pending member at our early meeting, but the board has met. So she is now a member, has full privileges. And I think that's it until the commissioner gets here, when we will take a break and introduce him. So we'll move on to item number 2 for now. And that is consideration and possible action to approve the summary notes from our August 30th, 2024 meeting. So if you would just take a second to refresh your memory on those notes and let us know if there are any changes requested or any questions. Hearing none, I would accept a motion to approve.
I motion.
Chris
Second,
motion, is there a second?
Robert
Second,
Green
Oscar.
seconds. Oh,
Oscar Hernandez, second. All right, and our protocol for voting in these virtual meetings is for everybody to raise their hand physically and keep it up while we count. And so go ahead, and if you are in favor, please raise your hand now.
Unanimous.
It's unanimous. The motion carries. The summary notes are approved. Thank you very much. And I think we have Van with us now. So do we want to go ahead and skip to that item?
We can
that right?
certainly do that.
All right.
Sorry with you, Dr. Lockers. Sure.
Dr. Loftus, is it all right if we amend the agenda to let Van go ahead and meet with us?
That's up to you as chair.
All right, very good. Well, we are going to, we have a special guest with us, and that is Dr. Van Davis with a Department of Education update. So we are going to skip into our THECB updates to make the best use of Dr. Davis's time, and also want to start by congratulating Dr. Davis on his new role with the WCET as executive director. We couldn't be more thrilled for that. Van was with the coordinating board years ago, has continued to be an active partner in all of our endeavors, and we are grateful to have you here to let us know what's going on in the Department of Ed. And I laugh only because I know there's been a lot of stuff that's happened even since we were planned to meet in early January. So Dr. Davis, welcome.
Thank you very much, Patrick. I appreciate it. We can probably make this fairly quick because the bottom line is there is still tremendous uncertainty. As you know, President Trump's secretary designee, Linda McMahon, has not yet been confirmed. In fact, her Senate confirmation hearings have not taken place at all. We also do not have a nominee announced for Undersecretary of Education, the role that James Cavall most recently filled. So, in fact, most of the political appointees that are going to require Senate confirmation for the Department of Education have not been announced yet. So we are very much in a holding pattern. There were a couple of actions, though, in late December, early January that I want to make sure that we draw your attention to. One has to do with the release of distance education regulations. I'll be quite honest, we were very surprised that the department decided to move forward with these regulations, but we were also pleased to see that some of the more problematic aspects that many of you had submitted comments on were not moved forward. So you may remember last winter, the department was in negotiated rulemaking. There were a number of issues that were being negotiated, including state authorization and reciprocity, accreditation, cash management, which included inclusive access, removing Title IV aid eligibility for asynchronous clock hour programs, and then also taking attendance for distance education courses and the creation of a virtual location for distance education programs, as well as some TRIO issues. The department did not move forward with state authorization and reciprocity. It did not move forward with accreditation, and it did not move forward with cash management and inclusive access. Those are dead. It formally ended its rulemaking around those issues. For any sort of regulations to be created for those areas will require the new Department of Education to enter into a new round of negotiated rulemaking. What the department did move forward with, though, were a set of distance education regulations. What they had proposed initially included attendance taking, removing Title IV eligibility for asynchronous courses, as well as the creation of a virtual location. The department did not, in the regulations that it did not release any regulations having to do with removing Title IV eligibility for asynchronous distance education clock hour courses. That is dead. It would, again, require new negotiated rulemaking in order for that to move forward. It also removed the distance education attendance taking proposed regulations from return to Title IV. So that is also dead. It would require new negotiated rulemaking for that to move forward. What it did do is it moved forward with a definition of distance education that is largely the IPED's definition of distance education. It removed the phrase residency experience, which it had initially proposed to include. So that is largely in line now with the IPED's definition of distance education. It removed the addition of virtual location. It did move forward with distance education enrollment reporting. So the reporting of distance education enrollments on your campuses. That, however, will not be implemented until July 1st, 2027. There's a little thing called the Congressional Review Act. And so because these regulations were issued so late in the Biden administration, they are subject to the Congressional Review Act. It is possible that Congress, should they choose, could overturn these regulations. We don't think that this is likely to be very high on Congress's list of priorities, but it is possible. The other piece of significant regulations that were released very, very late in the Biden administration was a Dear Colleague letter that deals specifically with third-party servicers and even more specifically with online program managers with OPMs. What that Dear Colleague letter does is it offers an interpretation of 34 CFR 668.71 that relates to the misinterpretation, including, and I'm quoting here, false, misleading, or inaccurate information about the nature of education programs, financial charges, or the employability of graduates. That Dear Colleague letter specifically calls out 3 areas of inaccuracies that institutions need to be aware of and prevent from happening. One is inaccurately identifying an individual employed by an external service provider as being employed by the eligible institution. One is inaccurately presenting a sales rep or recruiter employed by an institution or external service provider as an academic advisor or counselor, and they specifically call out the word counselor. And then the third is describing a program or any of its components or resources provided in substantial part by the external service provider as, and I'm going to quote here, the same as, unquote, a corollary residential program or campus-based version of that program. So those are the 3 areas of inaccuracies that this Dear Colleague specifically calls out, Dear Colleague letter specifically calls out. There's one other thing that I would note for you. There was an executive order that was signed last week that creates a 60-day regulatory freeze on any regulations or guidance that either has not been published or has been published and not taken effect. And that's to provide the new administration with time for review. Both of these, the distance education regulations and the OPM Dear Colleague letter, fall into that category. So there is currently a 60-day freeze in the implementation of those. The distance education regulations, of course, would not go into effect. The new definition of distance ed would go into effect July 1st, 2026. The reporting of distance education enrollments July 1st, 2027. So the freeze doesn't really impact those regulations. The freeze does, however, impact the Dear Colleague letter on OPMs. So there's a lot to be paying attention to right now. We don't quite know what's going to eventually happen with the OPM guidance. We still don't quite know what's eventually going to happen on the distance education regulations. And it will be very interesting to see, depending upon the staffing of the Department of Education, what is going to happen around distance education. So lots to watch and lots that's still up in the air. WCET and the State Authorization Network, which is a part of WCET, of course, will continue to monitor these things very closely. And you can always look at our blog Frontiers for those of you that aren't members of WCET. The Frontiers blog is open to everyone, and we frequently will blog there about updates on federal regulatory issues.
Thank you, Van. Appreciate that. This committee is going to meet again in early March on March 10th, I believe, or 7th. Let me check for sure. I just looked at it in March 7th. Sooner than quarterly because of our delay in meeting because of the weather earlier this month. That 60-day freeze period will not be up at that point yet. There may be some other updates. We may have a Secretary of Education by then. But what would you recommend institutions do in the meantime? Is it really just wait and watch and see what happens, or is there anything that they need to take action on now. There's no rulemaking underway or anything to provide public comment on. Is it really just a wait and see at this point for us?
I think it's really a wait and see. I would watch what's happening with the department very closely. Really don't know what's going to happen with the OPM Dear Colleague guidance. I certainly, though, would be aware of it and make sure if you are using an OPM, that whoever is responsible for administering that contract and overseeing it is aware that that Dear Colleague letter exists. I really do think, though, that we are in a wait and see pattern to see what the incoming administration is going to do around these issues. But certainly make sure your institution is aware of that Dear Colleague letter. Wouldn't hurt to go back and take a look at the distance ed regulations around distance education reporting. Although knowing that that wouldn't be implemented until July 1st, 2027 at the earliest. It's going to be interesting to see what the incoming department does and how it relates to distance education.
Thank you. I do want to give our committee members an opportunity to ask questions, but I want to take a break and introduce the commissioner who has joined us and provide some context as well. So this is Dr. Van Davis that has been presenting. You may know Van, but he is the new executive director of WCET, a very important professional organization in our field, and we're delighted to have regular updates from him. Previously Chief Strategy Officer, and maybe a decade and a half ago worked here at the coordinating board. So very, very happy to have him with us. Always keep us up to what's going in particular with federal regulation. WCET is known for their policy advocacy, and we appreciate always having Van with us. But I did want to pause and introduce you. I understand that you like to be called Win, although it's a little uncomfortable. Hi, Win. How you doing? But yeah, we're delighted for you to join. Congratulations on your leadership position. I've read your bio, and I can't imagine a more perfect fit to lead this organization, and we are grateful to have you here. So Dr. Win Rosser, if you'd like to address the committee or ask us any questions, we are delighted to have you.
I appreciate it, Patrick, and thank you. Yeah, I'm really quite comfortable being just Win. There's a time and place for commissioner and doctor, but I know I tend to be very formal the way I address people. Like, so I have undergraduate professors that I ended up teaching with, like Dr. Byers. Dr. Byers would love for me to call him Gary. No, he's Dr. Byers. He's been Dr. Byers since I was 11 when I first met him. So I mean, it's just some of those things are hard for me, so I get it. But I'm comfortable with being addressed by my first name. Although I did realize, well, funny story, but I have a new first name as commissioner, so that's a different story. And the way things were showing up on my calendar, there was this guy CWR that was in all my meetings. Like, who is this person? And I finally realized it was me. C is my first initial now. So I appreciate the opportunity to be here. No, I've got just a brief moment, but mostly wanted to say hi and thank you for your work. I mean, we have a lot of advisory committees, and I think just the update that Van was giving, the depth and breadth of what we deal with here, we have to have really knowledgeable people helping us understand the issues. Two, instructional technology, learning technology, the speed at which things move is too much for me to keep up with on my own. And then it's really important, I think, that we stay connected to the people who are actually doing the work in the field. And I realize, I spent the last 18 years in philanthropy, where moving out of a programmatic role at a university to supporting people doing work in real places around the state, I finally had to realize, oh, I'm not the one actually like touching students now. I'm the one supporting people who may be supporting people touching students and helping them navigate towards their futures. And so we are at a distance, which is quite a comfortable place for distance educators. But how we stay connected, learn, and also what are the challenges that we're facing, and are there things that we can do to reduce barriers for use, reduce barriers for students? I think that's really important. So the work you do on the distance education planning, the rules, sharing best practices and current information, all that's incredibly important, and I appreciate the work. I know you come from far away, literally could be the distance of coming from other states to be here. So appreciate that. And if you're joining us online, appreciate the time and know that sometimes it's hard to get away. Just things about my background. I started out as a staff member, a faculty member, moved into some administrative roles. But and I did get to teach along the way, but in the late 90s, 2000s, learning technology was when we went from an overhead to an Elmo to being able to project PowerPoint. And so, fast forward then coming back into the classroom, a few years later, technology not changing that much. And then towards the last 5 or 6 years, educational things I pursued myself. I'm a licensed EMT, nationally registered. I did that program online, and it was hybrid. The in-person experiences were actually pretty awesome. The online experiences were actually pretty miserable. And it depended on, there were canned lectures recorded, depending who was delivering the lectures, and did they tell stories? Did they animate what was on the slides, or did they read the slides to you? And there were a bunch of different inspectors, different modules. They all taught things that were in their area of expertise. Think, okay, so that was a 1-semester program for me. If I had to do that every semester, what would that be like? So I think it's the technology is too powerful. I wouldn't have been able to pursue that EMT opportunity, but for distance education, full-time working professional with 3 kids and trying to be a good husband. So I think it opens up opportunities, but at the same time, how do we ensure that the learning is rich and that same in-person environment that we had for the labs and the practicals, to the extent that we can replicate that in our online? I think that's what I missed about being in the classroom. And I think I would have really enjoyed being in a classroom with some of the people that did the lectures for us, if there was some way to really interact with them. So had that experience most recently. Actually, our 2 kids are taking dual credit with Stephen F. Austin State University in Nacogdoches. We're in the process of moving the family here, but one of our sons, all his classes have been online. And again, some of those have been great. Some of them have been, let's suffer through this and get you the credit, but so totally depends on the instructor. They're using the same technology there. They use D2L, and the technology I think works good. It's really about the content and how the instructor engages with the platform, and then thus engages with the students. Some of them really interactive. You get almost real-time responses from them. Others, you wait a few days. So I think it's again down to how do we make the most use of the technology thing. So again, coming back to the way that you're talking about how we use the technology to serve students, push learning, open up opportunities, remove barriers. I think, and then just the changes that are coming, especially like AI. There's just so much to stay on top of, and it's changing so fast. So appreciate your work. I'd say probably the digital learning is the thing I know the least about, just because when I was teaching actively, when I was more engaged on a campus every day, again, it was technology of the day, but pretty limited in understanding of what actually goes on to teach in the digital environment. Although the last 4 years I taught a class online, but it was synchronous. And, I use Canvas just enough to upload assignments and download assignments and re-upload assignments. And so, but I only had 10 students too. So it was a graduate kind of a seminar class. So, I've got that experience as well. And I will say I was one of those faculty members who did not engage well with the system. But I also didn't have to, because I saw my students every week, and it was really just a platform to go back and forth on assignments. So, so this is actually, I love to learn. So this is one of the things I'm most interested in learning about. I will say that if you, just as a final thing about our son who took English 1301, he used the OpenStax textbook that the agency supported with, I think it was Rice. It's fantastic. And the instructor used it really well. And it structured her assignments, and the assignments built on each other one week to the next. He understood the process. First off, it was busy work, but then at the end of the first paper, that kind of had written itself because of the way the instructor took them through the process and using the tools in the textbook. So again, high quality book. Actually, I saved a copy of it. I have the PDF still in my files because it's a really good textbook. And I go to it and say, okay, now how did they do that? Let me remind myself. So I think, again, limited experience, love learning. I think this is something that we have to do well and do better and continue to do better at, to provide opportunities, bring down costs. And so all those things are incredibly important to me and entirely consistent with what I've been working on and want to work on just in a new way.
Fantastic, fantastic. I will take a moment to say, just to brag on this committee. the individuals that you see here, it's a volunteer organization, of course. Many of them, but traditionally, we all convene together before the pandemic, and then this became the regular. And we may do it again where we all come in. So there were expenses and time with travel, but certainly the time that they put into attending these meetings, but also meetings and activities and work that they do between. They are change agents in their own campuses, but also collectively change agents through this committee work and this committee and what they do. I mean, we've moved, I won't say light years ahead, but with Gen AI and the initiatives that coordinating board has supported and Dr. Singh has led a wonderful team in digital learning. This division was created in the last 5 years, and just a great team that has been built. All the staff members here, it's a joy to work with them and keep all of these various projects. It's a lot of plates spinning from the compliance and regulatory issues to the innovation work that we are doing as well. So just can't say enough good things about the people who are here. I was struck by during our roll call earlier that we have members that have been off and are coming back on, people who are continuing, so multiple terms of service, and some new members as well. And I think that's great energy to have. And it shows that people are interested in serving against, like, oh, I did my time, I'm rolling off of this. I think that each of us gets something out of these collaborations, and we're working with our colleagues as well. So just a really vital group, and we appreciate your support so much. And of course, the leadership of Dr. Singh and the team that she's assembled.
We'll work hard not to make it a miserable experience for you.
New building here, it's nice, I like
The
it.
building's nice.
It's good.
And we're, quick walk to the Capitol. Sometimes I go back and forth 3 or 4 times a day, so. But so Patrick, I appreciate the, not only, one term, but multiple terms of service. That is a good sign if you're willing to come back more. And, but at the same time, bring people in, and I think whatever we can do to create opportunities to share information and learn back and forth. I don't know, have we done anything on digital learning or technology at higher ed?
We did a couple sessions on AI, not this past one, but the one before, and then this most recent one, we did a course sharing.
And adapting to
presentation.
innovation, not just
Adapting
artificial
to
intelligence.
innovation, yes. And
Yeah, as a larger framework for the challenges that we don't even know about that are coming, and how our institutions can be prepared for those as well.
Faster and faster.
At the risk of turning this into a podcast interview, I'm just curious, your experience with generative AI. Have you used it for anything, or
I'll say
dipped your toes in the water?
I've dabbled with it.
Yeah.
So I don't know if any of you are familiar with what the city of Amarillo has done. The city of Amarillo has we call it persona, Emma.
Sure.
So when you go to
AI agent.
go to the city of Amarillo's website, that you can interact with Emma, and Emma speaks multiple languages. Or they're preparing to have Emma hand you off to someone that looks phenotypically like you would look for a language speaker from that culture. And Emma knows everything on the city of Amarillo's website, all she knows. And so to the extent the website's up to date, the information she shares back is up to date. But how do I pay my bill? How do I get my electrical services reconnected if I pushed a bill? And so that was my first introduction to it, thinking, wow, this is more than just like going to Chat GPT and asking a goofy question and see what comes back, which I have done. And so it really made me think, well, if Emma can do that, why can't Emma help us fill out the FAFSA, navigate Apply Texas, Common App, those kind of things? And so I'm really curious about those kind of things. I have, recently, like up until December, I was teaching. And so, we went through the whole thing of, do we fear AI? Do we help students use AI as a tool while still helping them understand the need to still work within an environment of academic integrity and cite sources, that you still have to, it's no different than Googling. You still have to fact check and make sure that what Chat GPT tells you or one of the other AI tools tells you is true. And so, kind of, I've dabbled in that. But I guess the first thing I did, I was sitting with a bunch of young, especially when I was doing the MT program, I was sitting with a bunch of 20-somethings that were, one of them who was enamored, he's a gamer, enamored with technology. And so he said, so what's a question that you'd like? So my background is agriculture. And I said, so what are prominent cattle? What are prominent breeds of British cattle? Common British breeds, something like that. And in the United States, well, and he asked me, okay, so what's the answer? I said, well, it would be Hereford, Angus, and Shorthorn. And it had all three of those as responses. I think it was top 5, but it also said Scottish Highlanders. Okay, so I'm coming at it from the US perspective of common British breeds. So if I were teaching an animal science class in the United States, Animal Science 107 at A&M, I'm teaching British breeds, it would be Hereford, Angus, Shorthorn. And then Scottish Highlander, I can guarantee you would not come up in a typical US class because it's not a prominent breed in the US. It is in the UK. And so if a student were to go off and say, hey, ChatGPT, I'm working on something, tell me what the prominent breeds of the British breeds of cattle are, from a US context, if they came back with Scottish Highlander, you're going to know they haven't done the work, they haven't fact checked. And so it was the first thing for me to go, okay, so it's really, it's an incredibly powerful tool, but at the same time, you still have to kind of know what you're looking for, and you have to ask the right questions. I think just like many things, asking the question in the right way gets you the maybe directionally the response you're going. So and since then, I mean, that was 2 years ago. Since then, I've used ChatGPT on and off for the fun of it. But I haven't bought the paid version of it yet. But so I'm intrigued by it. I haven't met technology that I don't like, but I also haven't deep investigated it. So that's the limit of it. That's curious. I'm a visitor to AI land, but not a cultural expert.
So we have these labels or categories that we kind of put ourselves into and ask others to consider. Sounds like you are AI curious. Other ones that many of us are AI optimistic. I hope we are all AI responsible, because we know that there are dangers and it can go off the rails, and we want to make sure not that we're responsible in our use, but that's something that we help teach at our institutions and our interactions with people. Something that's interesting, I do have the paid version. I know that I could stop now. I mean, technically I could, but emotionally, I don't know. But and I think this would work on if you're having it save your conversations, even in a free version. Ask it, what it thinks you're best at, and based on the queries that you've put in over time, helping you with projects that you're working on and stuff, I think you'll be delighted, because it is optimistic. It's not going to say here are all your shortcomings, but it made me feel really good when I did that. So I would encourage each of you to give it a try. Say, what are my best accomplishments? What do I think I'm good at? And then if you really want to be a little out there and risky, say, what are my blind spots? And it told me that too. I was like, oh gosh, that's kind of insightful. Thanks for that. But yeah. So I think it is one of those that we're in an age of curiosity and exploration, and of course innovation. So thank you for sharing your experiences with us as well.
I'm at least curious, maybe bordering on optimistic, but I think just we find the way to use it powerfully to help people that we want to help, students remove barriers, those kind of things. And again, I think if we can figure out a way to, like Emma, to help with the FAFSA and the college application. We have an 18-year-old going through the college application process right now. It is a incredibly complex process with 2 parents, both of whom have been, involved in the admissions process and the advising process for 3 decades. You scratch your head like, what question are they asking? What do they want to know? And how is it going to help them make a decision about this student? And when you do that across 10 institutions, it's all the, so there's and we had to do the Common App because she's applying to a broad range of institutions, and like each one of those institutions has its own supplemental questions. So, it's there was some way to help manage all that, organize that. I don't know, but I think there's institutional processes as a field. Sometimes I think we do things that are good for us and helpful for us. We don't necessarily always think about how that impacts the student and their family. So.
Imagine the family that the parents are non-native speakers, student, first generation college student, and it's even more complicated. So
working 2 jobs, trying to take care of a family, and then they've got to navigate all that. So, what we know about Texas students and families is 80% of parents and students believe higher education is important to their students' future. And so asking about concerns and barriers, number 1 is cost, number 2 is fear of debt. Number 3 is like fear of failure. Like, can they do this? Actually, fear of debt and fear of failure, something along, I think it's fear of failure, something like that. Those are kind of tied, but our students and our families are really cost sensitive. So again, that we can do through digital learning, digital resources to bring down costs. Like I know the nursing curriculum alone that the agencies worked on saved $25 million for students. I don't have to pay $25 million. That's a big savings. And it's larger than that when you look at all the curricula. So there are things that you're working on, that you're doing at your home institutions, that you're helping us better understand, that will result in that manageable debt goal. So you're contributing to something really, not only learning, but also the process. And so I appreciate all that. Appreciate the opportunity to come in and say hi.
And you kind of answered this in those remarks, but do you have any questions for us? And what can we do as a committee to help you be successful in your role?
I'll have tons of questions always. So I mean, I think, again, just what can we do to ensure that students are earning credentials of value? And that's two things that go into that. The students' decisions and the institution's decisions. The students' decisions, do they stay on time? Do they take a full course load? Do we help them stay on time? The average number of hours, this is a few years old, but the average number of hours to an associate's degree in the state of Texas is like 90 for a 60-hour credential. 4 or 5 years to complete an associate's degree. Students go part-time, taking care of families. And there was also this mentality, well, they need to be able to explore. Well, there's a difference in wandering and exploring. And so I think there was a time where we let students, not only in community colleges, but also in universities, wander and, take things off the degree plan. And so again, I believe learning and being broadly educated is important, but to the extent that we can help students stay on track, know what the track is, and if they're too far off of it, puts at least some guardrails to help them move back into the flow where they need to go to on time. And if we can, so in student decisions, stuff like that, institutional decisions like open educational resources and bringing down costs. How do we help influence both of those, and then ensure that students are prepared for the workforce, knowing what they need to know, thrive as an individual, help the state thrive, and all that with manageable debt, and maintaining a high quality learning environment to support the student experience, which we know is really important. But direct link between student experience and retention, and so all those things, and I mean, that cuts across administrative areas and learning. So I'd say help us keep learning about those things, and then let me think about some good questions, and I'll come back to your next meeting.
That would be fantastic. Yeah, that aligns well with what we are interested in, increasing accessibility and affordability, as well as excellence and employability. So again, thank you so much for your time, and we look forward to seeing you again and working with you.
I do. And then I have 2 dyslexic kids too, and so all the tools that help support them, which it's kind of I'd say a broken landscape of understanding what works and what works well. So that's important to me as well. So we can talk about all that stuff sometime. Thank you all.
Thank you again. All right, so we will shift gears back. If you recall what was going on before all of this conversation with the commissioner started, Van had briefed us on the state of higher ed regs in the federal realm. And I was going to give you an opportunity to ask any follow-up questions. So if anybody has any questions for Van, now would be a great time to bring this forward.
We're in the wait and see.
Yep, we're in the wait and see. So maybe no questions. Van, I hope you can join us again at our March 7th meeting, and let us know if anything's changed then. And I wanted to comment, I keep looking at your hair back, and it looks like you're wearing a shroud or something, like you're a Jedi. I don't know if that's the effect you were going for, but anyway. Yeah, effective.
No, I've
Effective
never been
nonetheless.
accused of being a Jedi. I've been accused of a lot of things, Patrick.
Now you
but never
have, so there
that.
you go.
Well, thank y'all.
Never
It's
time for
always,
service.
I'm always happy to spend some time with y'all.
Thank you. And you're welcome to stay on for the rest of our agenda. We're going to be talking about House Bill 8 next. Jeff Parker with us, so you're on deck. We're going to go ahead with that agenda item since we have the guest. And again, Van, you're welcome to stay. If you have to go, we understand as well. Know your new role is making you even more in demand and busy than you were before.
Okay, so I'm up, correct?
Yeah, you are. I was just switching to the page and make sure where we're at. So you are going to tell us about House Bill 8 and the latest in that realm. So thank you
That's
for,
agenda item 5C, right?
yep, it's agenda item 5. I have C.
C.
Yep, 5C. So thank you for joining us from Department of Workforce Education.
All right. Good morning, everyone. Good to be back at the LTAC meeting. And my name is Jeff Parks. I'm the Senior Director for Workforce Education Partnerships. And I'm going to give you a little update on what has been transpiring over the last few months. The biggest thing that we've been working on in the past few months is we've been partnering with Texas Association of Community Colleges for regional summits. Those regional summits happened in the fall, and there were multiple regional summits to talk about House Bill 8 and the funding futures and an overview. So it was workforce ed and the college finance team, community college finance team, and we went across the state. It was to ensure stakeholders have a clear understanding of the mechanics of the new funding model. So we went into great detail on the funding model from various departments within the CCF, the Community College Funding team, providing opportunities to learn and reflect now that we've had House Bill 8 in place, and the questions that came up after it was in place. Assessing current opportunities and challenges. There was a lot of questions along the way of how does this work and what, we have these challenges with how the funding model is and can we address these items. Collaborating with peers and partners across several community colleges because of the fact that we brought multiple community colleges together at the same time. There's always that session that happens and you do a presentation and then there's all the questions and the conversation that happen after. For instance, after I did presentations, people wouldn't ask questions necessarily during the sessions, but they would spend a lot of time coming by and asking questions or, hey, can you come over and talk to me about this? So it was a great opportunity to answer those questions, do one-on-one opportunities with those various community colleges. And the alignment with the new funding opportunities. How is everything aligning now that it's been in place? We were looking at all the colleges that were available in the state as far as the 48 community colleges are members of TAC, and they were invited to these regional summits. The regional summits happened in San Antonio in late September, early October. They were usually 2-day sessions. So that was, to allow people from the South Texas and central parts of Texas to come and visit those. Then we had a Dallas session November 6th and 7th. That was for central, east, and northern regions. And then we had an Odessa meeting for the West Texas region on December 4th and 5th. And then we finished up with a Houston region summit that was on the 9th and 10th of January for the Southeast Texas. We weren't strict about, if we have these particular sessions that you had to go to the particular region. So we had people from at Odessa, there were people from East Texas that were there. At Houston, because that was the last session. That was actually the largest session because of the fact that there were times that people couldn't make the other sessions, and so they came. So we had about 115 people at that particular session, and colleges from East Texas and West Texas actually showed up to the Houston's session as well. So a total of 4 summits. There were 315 attendees from 40 community colleges out of the 48 that are part of members of TAC. So it was, very well represented, and they were able to ask a lot of questions as we went through. The topics across the summits were, we went and did a deep dive into the funding model. And by a deep dive, I mean, we went, the community college finance team went in very deep and actually brought up the spreadsheet that we have on our website and showed them how to operate the spreadsheet, where the information was at, and just spent time using that tool with the groups. and so that they could learn more about how to make that tool work for them, and questions that would come up from that. We reviewed the financial planning tools, data visualization tool, the financial simulation tool. Those are both wonderful tools that you can put that information in, and you can project out what's going to be into the future. For instance, you say, well, we're going to have an increase in enrollment of 3% or 4%, and this is what we believe that we'll have an increase in our graduation rates on these particular items. And so then you can see where that modeling is going to take your finance and move it from there. There was data management and reporting, and then workforce and high demand fields. We talked about those as well. And then we finished up with credentials of value and talking about that. And so the team that's actually doing credentials of value was able to address that. So the key takeaways from the summit, the biggest thing is that it evolved over the summits. In the beginning, there wasn't even the credential of value topic in there, and people said, "Hey, can we get more information on credentials of value and learn more about that?" So that was added to the summit. As I talked about earlier, it was a way to provide clarity and collaboration for opportunities in House Bill 8 implementation. And we were very excited about the strong participation. There was a lot of people from all across the state that visited each one of the sessions and got a lot of information out of it. And I received a lot of questions in the workforce ed side on the back side of the regional summits. And just learning about the tools, spending time playing with the tools and actually learning about the tools, and asking the questions of the experts from the CCF team, how does this operate and how does this work? So that they were able to get that information. So that's what I had to share with you today of what's going on in workforce ed regarding House Bill 8 funding. Questions that you have for me?
Well, I'd first like to thank you for the report, but also congratulate you on a successful series of events. It sounds like it was very meaningful, and being receptive to creating new content related to the questions that you were getting. Really, really great. So glad that you were able to have such strong attendance as well. 40 out of 48 is admirable. I do wonder for those 8 that didn't participate in that, and for when there's transitions for people at institutions that are working with this, is that wealth of information that was presented in the summits also available online or in some other format to make sure that there's continuity if there's transition at institutions and implementing House Bill 8, or for those who may have missed it?
Great question. Yes, TAC actually recorded the last session, and they're going through and editing that, and they'll have that available on the TAC website for the colleges that were not able to attend. Or I even had a question the other day. It was like, I was able to attend, but I wanted to go back and look at a couple of things. And so they'll be able to actually review that and go over some information, because it'll be available to them on the TAC website.
Fantastic, great work. Any questions from our committee members? No, Jeff, do you have any questions for us?
No, I have no questions for you, but I appreciate your time, and thank you for letting me do a presentation today.
We are grateful to have you, and of course, you're welcome to stick around, but also understand you may have other obligations that call you, and we look forward to seeing you again soon. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
All right. Do we have any other presenters that we need to consider their time? It's all people who are here. All right, so we will go back then to where we were in the agenda before we greeted the commissioner. So that would be item number 3, discussion of institutional plans for distance education review process, and Dr. Lofters.
Thank you. The IPD process has already started. We did get the first 4 institutional plans for distance education submitted to the coordinating board through the portal, and it worked fairly well as we expected. There were some internal challenges that we had that we were going to address with our own IT people, but for the most part, all of the information was submitted. It was able to come in. We could transfer that into a spreadsheet, which I did for our operations work group that we're gonna talk about during the work group sessions today. It also was able to capture all of the attachments that they had as supporting information. And those were also put inside folders. We are providing the operations work group access to all of this information through a Teams portal or Teams hub so that we can start talking about how we're going to go reviewing it. For this first round of IPDEs, the operations work group requested that they do these first round of reviews. So we're going to be talking about that this afternoon. If you are not on a work group, but I'm not sure this is not the time, but the operations work group does need some additional members to help with the review process for the institutional plans for distance. See, that's what I'm looking for. So I was looking for. Good. So when it's come time to the work groups, I'm sure that there'll be time for the chairs to talk about what these work groups do. And if you're interested, please, feel free to join the operations group. We are also making some changes to the rules. We proposed some that will go to the April board meeting, particularly on IPDEs. And the reason being is that, as you know, we changed the rules so that we no longer approve programs for distance education, but we do an institution approval process through the IPDE. The rules basically stated that you should have your IPD approved after your reaffirmation or after the last approval, which would have been 10 years prior, within 10 years of your last approval. So everyone's IPDE approved around 2003, 2004. So based on the way the rules were written, technically, we could have like a whole batch of everyone who would submit theirs because it's been more than 10 years since their last approved IPDE, which happened in 2003. So there was a provision inside rules that allowed for the commissioner to give at least a 2-year extension for institutions to submit their IPDEs when it's time for renewal. So what we did through commissioner memo, we allowed those institutions other than those that we know that had IPDEs due now, they have a 2-year extension, which gives us time to fix the rule. So therefore, we're trying to get that go through towards April. So that'll be completed. So we won't have 100 IPDEs all at once. I believe that's the main changes or the main activities happening with the IPDE process right now. I mean, so far it's working the way it should. We're gonna have to make some adjustments as you would for the first time. You'll find some things that need to be fixed. And some of them are from the institutions that we have here. And they're very good. I mean, they're some interesting submissions. So I'm looking forward to talking to the operations work group when it's time for the work group sessions. And yes.
Dr. Lapp, one question. If your institution has a IPDE under review right now, and you happen to be part of the operations work group, many names, should you recuse yourself or pick another work group for this time potentially?
We all know who you're talking about.
Call you out, Pam.
Every one of us know.
That is a good point.
Or would it only be from reviewing?
Reviewing theirs.
Still serve, but.
Yes, I mean, I think that's something we need to discuss during the meeting. I think we need to bring that up during the meeting to get some clarification, but I agree, well, on initial first thought about it, I agree that should be recused from looking at their own.
Correct.
Got it.
Great.
Well, I
But-
think just an agenda item for the operations work group.
We'll talk about that.
Pam or whoever it is can go there for now.
And she get to
There's
vote
just-
on that.
It's a discussion about the review.
But there was a component as to why we enjoyed her being a part of the process so far, because she was going through it at the same time we were reviewing our processes and making sure that how she was interpreting what we were doing and how we were doing it, and it felt good to have an institution who was going through it. But now as we move forward, I wonder if we still value her on the committee, but she would recuse herself from our own, just for the first go round, because we're still tightening up what we're doing. But I understand.
I don't know the answer to that question. I wanted to put it out there because I don't think we've talked about it yet, but it has been very valuable, Pam, to have you involved in this first round as
I appreciate the word
we'll call you a guinea
enjoy.
pig. Just
Well, and beyond that, she has a long history of working with the review
Exactly.
or the
Yes.
doctoral proposal, so
Very.
we would hate to have you not be in that for this cycle. That wealth of experience and your willingness to be engaged with it. So I won't be in the operations subcommittee when you all discuss that, but hopefully you can bring a recommendation back to the group for us to consider on how to handle those instances going forward. Thank you for bringing that up.
Does anyone else have any questions for me about just the IPD update at this point, until we come back from the work group with another report? Any other questions?
All right.
Thank you.
Hearing none, we'll move forward. Thank you very much, Dr. Lofters, and be thinking about, since we're going to do this later in our agenda, which work group you might want to serve on. And if the operations work around IPDE review is of interest, even if you're on a different one or have been in the past and would change, I know they would like to have you involved in that work. Especially might be useful if your institution may be coming up in a subsequent round in the next year or so to see how that works and get in there so you can help your institution go smoothly through that process. All right, we're at an hour into our meeting. How are we feeling about need for a bio break, or are we okay to continue? Maybe another 15 minutes? What's the sense of the body here?
No one seems to be panicking.
No,
so I guess-
nobody's, it was like, yeah, me. Yeah, not that I wanted to call anybody out, that they needed to refresh themselves, but so we'll go ahead for the next 15 minutes or so. That maybe will get us through your item 4 updates, Kyla. So the item agenda 4 is discussion of statewide higher education activities pertaining to generative artificial intelligence, of which there are quite a few. And then we will take a 10-minute break, and then we will continue with you with the remaining coordinating board updates and state authorization report, which Cam is not here, but there was a supplemental report around. So with that, if you would let us know about the generative AI initiatives.
Absolutely. Okay, well, first and most sort of important at this moment is that our Digital Learning Summit is being held February 11th and 12th, and it will be focused around adapting to innovation, including AI. The full program is now available online, and we can send that link out to. There is also an opportunity for institutions to bring groups together for a watch party or some sort of hybrid professional development activity, discussion groups around that we are referring to as idea exchanges. So if you're interested in hosting an idea exchange at your institution, please let us know. That's just that sort of interactive forum where educators, staff, administrators come together. It can be, on site, it can be hybrid, it can be virtual within your campus or your group, and then we will have virtual sessions available through the DL Summit that you can then have your own sort of local conversations around. So that's happening. It's going to be really, really fun, and we have some very big names in the AI space coming to do keynotes, so we hope you will come and check that out. Some of the big names are Dr. Brian Alexander, who is the senior scholar at Georgetown University. I'm doing this slow because Patrick called me out on remembering all the big names, and so now I have to look it up quickly in the order in which they are speaking. So Dr. Brian Alexander is opening for us on the first day, February 11th. Dr. Yakut Ghazi, who is Vice Provost for Learning, Innovation, and Digital Education at Duke University, is putting out the first day and kind of fireside chat with our own Dr. Michelle Singh. Todd McLeese, founder of humanskills.ai, will be our opening keynote for the second day. And Dr. C. Edward Watson, who's the Vice President for Digital Innovation at AAC-NU and co-author of Teaching with AI, will be our final keynote for the conference. So those are some pretty fancy people who've done amazing things in the world of AI and are approaching it from a wide variety of different perspectives. So it should be a really interesting conversation that comes out of that. So that is the Digital Learning Summit. We, in the Division of Digital Learning, have been in the midst of some focus group research related to AI and open education. So we've been working in partnership with ISKME. You may know that they do our OER landscape survey with us and some other research. And having discussions with faculty, staff, administrators around the intersections of AI and open education principles and strategies, as well as OER. We're going to present some initial findings from that focus group research at the DL Summit. So that's yet another reason to be there. And then there is some additional research related to AI that we have in development. And I'm going to discuss that in more depth with our research work group later today. So there's a little plug for the research work group. We are doing another series of the AI empowered webinars that we did in the fall. You can see all of the recordings from the fall series on DL Texas. And then on February 19th, we'll have our first in the spring series of AI empowered. And that one is going to be a showcase of AI efforts at Texas institutions at various levels. So kind of in the classroom, at the institutional level, when it comes to academic programming. And there's also going to be an opportunity, kind of a sneak peek of where we're going with the Adapting Innovation Hub and an opportunity to offer some community feedback on that. So that will be February 19th. And again, you can go to DL Texas to register for that one. And there are a few more monthly until May on public virtual webinars open to everyone on various topics related to AI, adapting to innovation, and other emerging technologies. We'll be announcing a spring version of our facilitated learning network as well, which is the professional learning opportunity for faculty and staff to learn more about artificial intelligence in teaching and learning with some curated content that's on Coursera, and then synchronous sessions with expert presentations and time for discussion with the cohort going through that professional learning. So if you're interested in that, keep an eye out. That will be announced. And lastly, for AI and adapting to innovation, the DL team here at the coordinating board is going to be presenting on adapting to innovation at the TXDLA conference in Denton, March 30th through April 2nd. You can look on the website for a gorgeous picture of Patrick and Charlene. And then we'll also be holding a town hall at the TXDLA conference for the THECP Division of Digital Learning to gather some community insights and feedback on work in progress. So that, I think that's it for generative AI / adapting to innovation work.
Any updates on the essentials course and the work we're doing with Luke's group?
So I'm not sure exactly.
That may be something that we be escalated about, but
There will be, so there will be opportunities for slots to take on just the Google AI Essentials course. There may be other work related to the Google AI Essentials course as well, but nothing that I can discuss quite yet.
All right. Sounds good. Thank you. Any questions about any of the Gen AI updates? how many of you just as of now are planning to come to TXDLA? I'm gonna put people on the spot. It's not a vote, but raise your hand if you think you'll be able to make it. All right, got a few. It's first time it's in Denton. I'm really excited it's gonna be there. Since, 98, I've been going to these conferences. One of the first was at the airport as part of another conference, and we've been out to Lubbock. That was my first time to Lubbock early on to a TXDLA conference, and glad to have it in our own backyard. I know one of the nights they're going to have an evening out at Andy B's, which is like one of these like Punch Bowl Social or one of those things, have lots of different games and activities and indoor bowling and it's a lot of fun. So and excited that colleagues are presenting there. I've seen the agenda so far. It looks like very, very engaging and promising. So hope many of you can make it. That's my commercial for the TXDLA conference and coming to see us in Denton.
And who's gonna come to the DL Summit week after next? I will put you on the spot. I expect all hands to be up. You should at least be registered. You can watch the recordings. And thank you very much. We're excited to have you there.
That's right. You might want to turn your camera off if you're not gonna raise your hand. They'll come after you. Awesome. All right. Well, are there any other questions? If not, we'll take our 10-minute break until 10:20. So during that time, you can turn your cameras off and of course your mics, and we will then come back on at 10:20. See you in a few minutes.
Everybody ready?
Yes. And we're back. If everybody could go ahead and take a moment to turn your cameras back on. Sorry, we're a couple minutes late coming back. We were just having too much fun here in the room. And I don't think I mentioned earlier, Erasmus Ade from Austin Community College is also here in person. So you may not, I'm not sure how far the cameras can get. You can see him very good, but wanted to let you know that he joined us as well. And as always, you're welcome to join here in person if the spirit moves you. And if you wouldn't mind letting the staff know, and they'll make sure to have a name tag ready for you. And we're glad to have you here in person as well. Still waiting, well, maybe it's just on my screen, still waiting for a few cameras to come back on. Ashley and Pam and Dr. Loftus, if you could just verify that we have quorum again. It seems that we do, but always want to make sure.
We have a quorum.
All right, very good. Well, we will pick up where we left off on the agenda, which is still the Kyla Show with digital learning updates. She has one more item for us. And then Dr. Loftus, just to make sure you're on deck. I know Cam couldn't join us today. There was a report circulated with some important information from her, but if you wouldn't mind addressing her agenda item for us when we get to it.
No problem.
All right, Dr. Total.
Hi, it's me again. Okay, here we go. More digital learning updates. Okay, as you all, I think are aware, we do have, we launched course sharing last year, I believe, and that at that point it was a pilot program with 10 community colleges who came together. And not only did they sort of launch course sharing at their institutions, but they also worked together to create guidelines and things to help other institutions as they come on board in this process. Well, that program has now expanded to 20 institutions across Texas through both state appropriated support and also philanthropic support from the Greater Texas Foundation. The intent is to add up to 5 additional 2-year colleges during the current academic year, and then the next phase would include expanding offerings to 4-year institutions. There are continuous improvements, of course, going on to the technology infrastructure and course offerings based on analytics data and other types of data. And some of those sort of continuous improvements that are in the works include addressing the need for STEM courses by supporting the creation of OER around those courses to make them more affordable for students. So that is ongoing, and Carrie Getz on our team at the coordinating board is the project lead on that. So if you have questions about that, you can always contact her. Speaking of OER, the awardees of the 4th round of the OER grant program, which is legislatively appropriated funding for that grant program, that will be announced. Those awardees will be announced soon. Just hold your breath any minute now, kind of soon. The grant program is designed to aid faculty in redesigning high needs courses with OER at no cost to students. So some of the courses that were emphasized in this year's RFA included courses related to nursing, and it's to sort of complement some of the that we did with Rice around those OpenStax at Rice around those nursing textbooks, and also other high needs courses. The Division of Digital Learning will also be organizing events for Open Ed Week, which is March 3rd through 7th. So stay tuned for that. Those are really going to be community-based events around Open Ed and OER. And I think last on my list for this one, I'll talk about the student subcommittee later, but we are, much like we started the Adapting to Innovation subcommittee of LTAC, where we asked you all to nominate either yourselves or someone who is an expert at your institution to join that subcommittee, and they meet, they meet outside of the regular LTAC meetings, and they include LTAC members and external members. We're going to also be creating an information technology subcommittee created in that same way. So we'll be asking for an LTAC member who is excited about chairing a subcommittee like that. We also have a representative from an institution that's not an LTAC institution who would be interested in co-chairing that subcommittee. And the idea is that we would be asking you, and we'll send out a form for this purpose, but we'll be asking you for nominations of chief information officers or other IT experts at your institutions to form a subcommittee that's really focused on the technology when it comes to adapting to new innovations as they roll out. So we will, as I said, be sending out a form, and if you're interested in either chairing that group, or you want to nominate yourself, or you want to nominate an expert from your institution, please do so.
Will that go out to members of this committee, or will it go out to like the coordinating board list of chief academic officers for nominations?
We will start with this committee with the intent of having LTAC representation on that committee. And then if we need to find others, we may think about expanding that ask.
Very good, thank you. Any other updates?
Not on that. I'll talk about students like in 5 minutes. So.
All right, so the digital learning updates, any questions, comments? All right, hearing none, we're going to move on to the next item on the agenda, which is 5B and state authorization reciprocity agreements. Sarah and Cam couldn't make it today, but was gracious enough to provide the report, which was circulated yesterday. And Dr. Lofters, I believe you are going to walk us through that and take any questions or comments.
Sure. Hello again. The updates for Sarah was submitted to the LTAC, I think it was yesterday. Yes. So I'm just going to go over the highlights. Excuse me. Friday, June 6th, Cam is planning to have her second Texas Sarah Forum. I'm not sure if any of you were able to participate in the last one she had, but it was, I mean, I know I'm biased because she's in my division, but it was very, very good. Very informative. They had members of NC Sarah there as well as members of WCET staff. So it was excellent. So if you have an opportunity, I would recommend that, you check out the Texas Sarah Forum. The next one she talked about that Sarah had a new policy manual, had some policy changes in it. A lot of them had to do with, well, the ones that I highlighted was they had a change in the provisional status. You had to talk about the compliant process. Compliant policy must be listed on the institution's website and the institution's catalog on equivalent information for this whole provisional status. There was one that there was also clarifying language regarding programs leading to professional licensure. And she said we'll be going over a lot of these things during her Texas Sarah Forum on June 6th. There were 2 reminders she also gave for Sarah renewal applications. One, that they had to have a link. They're going to require the institutions have a link to the Sarah complaint process in your renewal. They have to provide evidence of that. And then she gives a reminder, please check your links, because as it happens at the coordinating board too, sometimes your links break. And just to make sure that they're all up to date and working. And they also said she said she wanted to make sure that you are following the U.S. Department of Education and Sarah policy regarding provisional license disclosures. And she gives you some language about the provisional license, professional license disclosures. Again, professional licensure disclosure. Sorry about that. There you go. And then she also wanted to give you an update. She's not only one of the board members for NC Sarah, she is also on the NC Sarah Consumer Protection and Policy Committee. She's an excellent resource, and she gives you her number and her email down there if you have questions. or if you have someone that's a new Sarah contact, I'd recommend you give her a call or send her an email. She's excellent resource. And I'll be happy to take any questions that I can write down and send to her. So, any questions? Thank you, thank you.
I have a question. I'll probably wait till March 7th meeting, if Cam can make it. But it really has to do with, there were a lot of changes that were being considered for Sarah, both internally and by the Department of Education, is in transition, as we know. So really just curious if are there any things that we should be waiting and watching for related to that? So we've got some good guidance here about provisional status and making sure you have links to the student complaints and so on. But these policy changes that are in the first item there, are any of those subject to be revisited under a new federal administration and ed? So that would be my question. That, okay, this is what it is now, but is it likely to change in the coming months as they may have different interactions with the Department of Ed? And hopefully that makes sense, but if not, I'm happy to reach out to Cam.
So what I'm hearing is like with these policy changes that we have in our first bullet, likely be revisited since we now have a new administration and probably gonna have some new staff in the US Department of Education.
Yeah, I think that's that. Yeah, that's accurate. All right, no other questions? And as Andrew said, if you have any, you can either send those to him and he'll get Cam, or Cam has included her, I think, contact information here. Certainly she has invited, yeah, it's at the end here. You're welcome to reach out to her directly. She's always been very receptive to that and very helpful. So we appreciate her work in that area and her representation on both the board and in the Consumer Protections Subcommittee. Fantastic. I think we are back to you now, Kyla, for item 5D, which is a report on our recently formed student subcommittee for LTAC.
That's right. This is the most exciting update of today, I think. I'm biased perhaps, but so the student subcommittee had its first meeting on December 5th. Very exciting. And they got together to discuss basically just a meet and greet so they all get to know each other, but they also discussed their goals for the subcommittee potentially and their experiences with digital learning and various types of technology. Some sort of priorities for them that came out of that included AI use, institutional support in not just academic, but also workforce skills, including with AI, but also technology more generally. So it was a really great discussion. They're a great group, lots of fun. And we had representation from Alamo Colleges, San Jacinto College, UTRGV, of course, that was our own Esmeralda, who is chairing that group, the University of North Texas, Lamar University, and Texas Tech University Health Sciences Center. We can have students. So if you did not hear your institution on that list that I just read, you are welcome to nominate a student to serve on that committee and have their voice heard. What will happen kind of moving forward, they're going to have meetings quarterly, maybe in the month or so before the LTAC meeting. And then generally Esmeralda, who is our student committee member, will and is chairing our student group, will come and do an update on their conversation and any ideas that they've had or things that they want to convey to the full LTAC. So she will do that report. She's just not here today, so it fell to me. But I hope that you will consider nominating a student if didn't hear your institution on that list, and certainly if you're new to LTAC and you want to nominate a student, please do so. You can email me or the digitallearning@highered.texas.gov address, and we will get that going. And we'll also send out, I think there's a nomination form that you can fill out that we'll send in a follow-up email to this meeting to everyone.
So, pretty easy.
It's pretty short, yeah.
Low barrier here to have that student participation.
Yeah.
I would strongly encourage folks to, if they don't have somebody nominated, to consider it. We have somebody from my unit that is an international student from Nepal, a senior in computer science, and works in our area at the university. And she said it was great to get to be with other students and talk about this. So I think it would be a benefit to that student personally, but I know it's a huge benefit to us to have that channel for student feedback from your institution. So please, if you have any inkling that you might do this, do it. And I'm sure you won't have any trouble finding a student that would be willing to participate as well. They were very eager and excited about it. So just wanted to put in a plug for it because it's a really cool thing. And I think it's going to be helpful to us as a committee.
I think that we scheduled the first meeting for about an hour and a half, and like we could have gone on a lot longer. They were very excited. It was a great discussion. So it's gonna be fun.
Yeah, for sure. So look for that nomination form around soon. Anything else?
That is that for now.
All right. I'm sure we'll find another agenda item for you somewhere
I'm
here.
sure I might have
Something
one.
to talk
Who
about.
knows?
So now we're going to move on to item number 6, which is our work groups and subcommittee sessions. And it says, which may include the following, it will include the following: quality assurance, research, and operations, unless you come back afterwards and say we want to change those names. That's what they are for now. We do have new members here. We may have individuals who are interested in working on a different group than they have been. And so I think at this point, I would like our chairs of those 3 subcommittees to give, or work groups, to give their elevator pitches for what that group does generally, and in particular, what they are focusing on this year. And we'll cycle through each of the 3 of you, and then we'll go through membership of those subcommittees just to see where people would like to be assigned, if they'd like to change, etc.
Can I just add?
Yes, you can add.
I'm sure you all went over this in your orientation if you're new, but just to kind of reiterate the point, we have 3 work groups: quality assurance, research, and operations, that generally meet during the LTAC meeting time. And then we have other groups that we really call subcommittees, although I feel like we probably interchange those subcommittee and work group a lot and confuse everyone. But the subcommittees, like the Adapting to Innovation Subcommittee or the Information Technology Subcommittee that we're creating that I just mentioned, those generally meet outside of LTAC time, and you are welcome to serve on both a subcommittee meeting outside of LTAC time and also a work group that meets during LTAC time, so you don't have to choose. I know you can serve on all of them. I would too, but you can pick one quality assurance, research, or operations to meet now, and then you can choose all those subcommittees you want to volunteer your time to, as far as I'm concerned.
Kind of wants all your time. That's what I heard.
All of Nikki's time already, at least, and probably several others of you, but.
Yeah, and it's, I mean, we add to the confusion here, our agenda item says work groups / subcommittee sessions. So important clarifications, trying to stick with subcommittees are those groups that meet in between, including the student subcommittee, as well as the new CIO IT subcommittee and the Adapting Innovation. So I'll try to refer to these as work groups regularly and consistently. So yeah, with that, let's see. Just going to go with the order we have on the next page here. So QA, that would be Janet or Robert, if you would like to give your entreaty for why people should pick you and your team and the interesting work that you're doing.
Well, hello, everyone. I see Robert's mic is still muted, so I will.
And he's smiling. Like, I can't find the button.
Yeah. So yes, we are the quality assurance work group, and if you can't tell, we like to smile, we like to laugh. But we're very serious about quality in distance education and online in particular. And so this is we often get some projects where we have to act, outside, we sometimes have to do some work, but we come together and we do some great work together. It is an amazing opportunity to help kind of set kind of the perspective for Texas and distance education and online education in general. So it's a great opportunity to have some input and to have your say, represent your institution, your region of Texas. So yeah, there's a pitch. Come on in, join us. I think you'll like it.
And I'll
Janet,
just
maybe
second
if-
everything that Janet says.
Sorry.
I'm sorry, Patrick. I'm just going to second everything that Janet says. We've worked with some really wonderful folks from, you get to meet folks from different institutions, but we all have the common goal of just like the name says, the quality assurance group. We want to make sure that we have the best quality stuff in the online here in Texas. So, yeah.
And I would say this, to all of our chairs, they're awesome people to work with. So thank you all for that. I wondered if just one more item, and I'll ask the other work group chairs to address this too. Some of the recent accomplishments, things in the last year that you focused on and accomplished as a group, because it has been a really productive year, and it'd be a good opportunity to let everybody know, especially the new members, what are some of the things that have come out of your particular group? And if we could, Janet or Robert, if you would address that, and then on deck, we'll have Jeff and then Luke.
For us, one of the big things is the institutional plan for distance education. We're working on the examples that other, institutions within Texas can look at. We've also worked on the can't remember the name of it, of course, the principles of Janet.
Principles of good practice.
Thank you. The principles of good practice. Yes.
It's so standard these days.
So we've done quite a bit in, updating some documents and just, creating the examples from scratch. And it's all a testament to the other folks that work on the committee with us. And, Janet's been a great leader, and, we stay busy in conjunction with our regular jobs, but it's a labor of love, as we would say it is. And we really enjoy doing everything that we do.
That's true. And I do want to just point out something that Kyla had mentioned earlier, and that is that we also get to work with institutions. Sometimes we work with institutions who are outside LTAC, current LTAC membership. And so that's always a great way to interact with folks that are beyond our committee. So join us.
Awesome. Thank you both. And Jeff, you are up. Why should somebody join the research work group?
I think Jeff is.
Where are you hiding, Jeff?
I think Jeff is gone, because I was just writing that down.
All right. Well, we'll come back to that group.
Go ahead.
Luke, if you would do your pitch for operations.
And invite Punan to join us as well.
Please.
But we've worked really hard on the evaluation documents. So once the subcommittee or future reviewers of IPDE, what are the documents they should use to document their evaluation, the results? And I just want to take this moment, Patrick, she may not see it, but to compliment Dr. Sarah Lee. She was an LTAC member that just completed her term of service, but we all met in October. And so we'll be reviewing the final documents today for staff to approve. So we typically have a lot of visitors to our committee, but we need some permanent committee members. So please help join us. Panam, is there anything that you wanted to say?
No, I just want to acknowledge the work that Dr. Sarah Lee did as we working on creating a rubric for evaluating these plans. This is a very supportive group that really wants to give evaluation that is constructive to our peer institutions. And so I think the work is going to be impactful. So I would encourage anybody who's interested in joining us to please join us.
Very good. And you have, you said you're in need of some members too. So keep that in mind as well, that maybe if it's not your first choice, but you're interested in it and you know that they need the help, and consider joining that group. And thank you for acknowledging Sarah Lee. I know She was very interested in continuing to serve in the future, so hopefully we'll see her again, lending her talents here. And in the meantime, Jeff is back, so fantastic.
We summoned him,
That's right.
and we will put him on the spot immediately.
So Jeff, I don't know how long you've been gone, but I'll catch you up. We are in our work group participation solicitation agenda item. And so we've just heard from our other two work groups why a member should participate in their work group. And now it's your turn to represent the research work group and say what it is we've been working on in the past year, any accomplishments, and then why they should join going forward. Besides you just being an awesomely nice guy.
Well, I am that, and very humble too.
Yeah, that's right.
Hi, everybody. I'm Jeff Friels. I'm at UT Austin. The research work group was put together in order to talk about various things related to researching how institutions around the state are engaging with digital learning. You know, we our work group worked with the survey that was conducted. Gosh, when was that? The big survey of IT and digital learning services around the state. We worked with the consultants and the digital learning team to put that survey together and to talk through some of the results and things that have come about as a result of that. We've talked about things related to accessibility. In fact, and I actually learned in the research group about other instruments that have been used. There's this data maturity index that was developed at the American Land Grant Public University. I think that's the correct term. I've actually used that in that data maturity index in a UT system project where it's a project funded by the Lumina Foundation where we're developing a playbook for curricular design and data agency. And that data maturity index has been really formative for that group. And I learned about it in the research group, and I've actually used that instrument quite a bit. Daryl James, who is a former member of the committee, was the one who turned me on to that. But we talk about all these issues and like where we should go next and what we should focus our efforts on. And it's really just, like I said, it's looking at trying to better understand sort of where digital learning is going, where institutions are at statewide in terms of their practice and strategy on digital learning, and sort of going wherever that leads us. We don't have quite as I don't think we have quite as hard a charge as, for example, the operations group or the other subcommittees that have worked on, for example, the IPDE process. So it's a little bit more talking and then sort of figuring out where we want to go next and then what we want to do based on what data needs to come about as a result of that. So that's the pitch. It's a great group of folks that have been in the research committee. I've been happy to lead it, and it's a really great group of people, and it's been really interesting. So join us. But that's what I got. Thank you, Patrick, and for putting me on the spot. I hope I did okay.
Anytime. Great job.
And Jeff, since you were put on the spot and because you don't have a co-chair at this moment, I will help you out, which is that digital infrastructure survey that the research group worked on that data being used to really inform some of the shared services work that the coordinating board is doing in the Institutional Collaboration Center. And we have at the coordinating board a lot of research planned in the next year around AI and open education and other digital learning topics that we will need insight to help us get to where we need to be. So that's my half, or really like a quarter of the pitch for the research.
Thanks for that, Kyla. And we have talked about AI, of course, quite a bit in the research group, especially trying to get a better sense of, again, what's happening around the state at various institutions and how they are proceeding with AI or not in some cases, but sort of what is the state of play. It's obviously moving really, really quickly as around things related to AI. And so that's been a very consistent part of our discussions, I would say, for the past year. So thanks for bringing that up.
And did I hear correctly that there might be a sneak peek the research group on the ISKME focus group research or no?
No.
No,
Um,
no promise.
No,
there.
we
Sorry.
will be presenting those initial findings at the Deal Summit, which is only a week and a half away, so hopefully you can wait that long, since you now are all registered. I saw the hands go up.
She's gonna be checking her list twice. Yeah, so no sneak peek, but those are some of the types of things that we would talk about is, well, what is gonna be the next thing? What will be done with that ISKME research as now we know it's gonna be presented, but also will inform further research activities as well as probably funded projects, et cetera. So, all right, so now it's the time where we pick teams, or rather you pick a team you want to serve on. And who is our note taker for making those assignments? Andrew, is that you? All right, very good. So you've got our chairs, you've got our groups. Do you want to start by going down the list of who is currently on those and see if they still want to serve in that role or change? And then we'll go with anybody who is not assigned,
Well, okay, I can do it that way. Start right.
or whatever works for you.
Yeah, that'll work, that'll work. First, is Ashley already gone? Cause I know she had to leave. However, she said she wanted to be on the operations committee, so I'm gonna put her name down. But she wanted to be part of the IPDE review process.
Excellent.
All right. So I'm gonna start with the operations committee. Right now we have Luke Dowden, Pam Morgan, Poonam Kumar, and Ashley Dawkins. As you heard from Luke, what we're engaged in, and right now we're just about to go into the first round of IPDE reviews. And anybody who's
I want to be at it.
Chris.
Everybody in the room apparently wants to be on that one.
Lydia. Well, he told me that our school's up. It's good.
Yes, people are coming up soon, you know, you gotta look for your, so I got Chris
I'll learn about it.
Rasmus.
And I see Linda Murphy. And did you say there was another? And Kat Howard?
Kat Howard.
And Linda.
I do need to, this is Linda Murphy, and I would like to qualify that we do have, we're one of the group that just submitted, so I'd have to recuse myself on our proposal, obviously.
Yeah.
Good with that. And there was one more, Kat Howard. All right, right now that gives me 8 on that subcommittee. And just so for the members who are new, we have to keep the committees at a smaller number than would be quorum to make sure that we don't go over any open meetings requirements. So 8 right now is, I like that. So if anybody else, we'll go through the rest of them and see what we have, and if you want to go to another one.
Roughly a third of.
A third of
So
the,
that's
yes,
good.
yes.
Good number.
So right now I have quality assurance. I have Janet Green, I'm sorry, Janet Camps, Robert Green, Charlene Stubblefield, Esmeralda Gonzalez, Nikki Whiteside, Janae Higgins, Patricia Abrego, and Michelle Giles. You already have 8 so far. Anybody else? We'll come back to that one. Let's go to the research one now, because we still have some spaces there. We have research, Jeff Friels, Aaron McGough, Patrick Plusht, Smithy Snyder. Well, Ashley Dawkins was on research. But right now we're going toward operations.
That's
So
fine. Yeah.
we still have 4 more spots for research. Anybody interested?
And people are unassigned.
Uh,
Just not this. So raise your hand if you're not currently assigned to one. This doesn't say you're going to be on research, but if you're not currently assigned to one.
Nikki is now assigned.
Right.
Okay,
All right.
and Alicia and Wade, did you raise your hand or were you already on one? Or
I'm
what
already
to
on
pick?
one. I'm on the QA one, yeah.
Very good. So Alicia will join us. Anybody else unassigned? Free agents out there?
What did Wade
Alicia,
say?
you said research?
Yes.
Yes.
And Wade.
Wade said he was already on one.
Oh,
He said he's on
I'm a QA.
QA.
Okay, yep.
gotcha.
And is there anybody that's put Michael Robertson on research as well? I know he couldn't attend. And I'm sure he will be fine with that.
Only missing. Oscar, are you on one? Is it Oscar not there? No, he's not there.
I don't see him.
No.
Well, I believe he is working in institutional research at his institution, so I think we'll pick him.
Right.
We'll pick him and Michael since they're not here to pick us.
Patrick will claim you if you are absent from an LTAC meeting, just so you know.
You bet.
He will volunteer you
You
for
bet.
work.
Yeah. And if you choose to change teams, I have no hard feelings, but yeah, we'll get them assigned and they can be on that the next time. So, all right, so it sounds like we have our reformed groups. Everybody knows what work group they're on. Anybody have any questions about an assignment? Because we're gonna break up and go to these work groups in a little bit, and we need to make sure you can find your way to the right place. And we're at that point. I think lunch may have also been delivered. So let me make sure. Don't send us all off in different directions here. So yeah, at this point, we will head towards our breakout rooms, which will also be our lunch break. So maybe we give, let's see, it is, can't read the time on my,
It's 11 almost.
yeah, it's almost 11. So let's say at 11:10, we will start our breakout group. So if you need to grab a sandwich or use a restroom, etc., do that, and then be in your breakout rooms by 11:10. Do we want to go ahead and head to those right now? And then people can turn on their cameras and start their breakout meetings at 11:10? That makes sense. So then we will be, it will not be streamed at that point, or it won't be live. Breakout room meetings are private and not recorded. And so we will break at 11:10. Start your meetings at 11:10. We'll break now for you to find your way to your breakout rooms. And then an hour reconvene back to the main meeting room at 12:10. That gives us a full hour for discussion and work. And then we'll have a report out from those committee meetings at that point. So, and if you need to adjourn a few minutes early from your breakout groups for people to refresh at that point, that is fine. Just be sure to be back in this main meeting room by 12:10. And who has the instructions for how to join the breakout rooms? All right.
I believe we have the 3 rooms named, quality assurance, research, and operations. So you will just choose the breakout room that you should be in.
There you go. So you click on join breakout room at the bottom. You get 3 choices. Choose wisely. So, all right, see you at 12:10. All right, everybody is beginning to get settled back in here. So if you would go ahead and turn your cameras back on. And we'll make sure we have a quorum and we can get started with our report outs. And Tim, just as I noted that it appeared that Van looked like a Jedi. You look like, and I don't know why it's all the Star Wars things, like it's maybe what was Amdala, I don't know, or yeah, something like that. Or puppy dog ears, either one. I'm stalling for time. It's obvious, isn't it? All right, so I see most everybody. Linda may be coming back. Chris in the room stepped out just for a second. She'll be back, but we want to go ahead and get started. So we will begin with our work group reports, and we'll go in the same order that we had before with the QA or quality assurance group first. So Janet and Robert, if you would like to give us your report out, and if there are any items that we need to vote on, please bring those forward as recommendations from the committee, and we will take care of that. And any action items that you might have that don't require voting, please share those as well. Janet and Robert.
All right, I can give an update. So what the work that we have going on in progress now since the fall is coming up with IPDE examples so that when institutions go to upload everything for their IPDE, they input it all, and then they can upload documents. And those documents are what we're giving some just some examples of things that institutions can take a look at. So we are well into that work. I think we are needing one thing that we have not, we're still looking for one example. But we will be having another meeting soon, and we're kind of in the narrowing in phase that we're going to be getting some things that we can share with Carrie and other staff, coordinating board staff, who are all amazing, by the way. I just want to put that plug in. It's wonderful to work with everybody at the coordinating board. So with that, though, Carrie also graciously offered to ask operations group if they would be willing at some point to share really good examples that they might have had for a particular item on the IPDE, so that, you know, with permission and anonymization, we might be able to incorporate an institution's actual submission as an example. I know SAC COC does that. The other accrediting bodies does that. They'll take an exemplary institutional report and use that as an example in their training sessions. So hopefully maybe we can get some of that going as well. We also, particularly Patrick, since you mentioned something about changing the name, we're looking at that possibility. And I will say that we, several of us, jumped onto our favorite AI and started looking at that, see what the AIs had to do. We need to practice what we talk about, right, with AI. And then we also hit some of the highlights of things going on at various institutions. And we have one of us is implementing a new LMS. And so that's always an interesting work. And then another major thing going on is online proctoring that's come up again, and at more than one institution, actually. My institution is also continuing to look at that. That's not necessarily an easy thing to do. Also, AI detection was also brought up. So that was another thing. All of those have to do with quality in the online teaching and learning environment in one way or another. So there's an overview. Robert, did I, and we are soon to have a poll. Robert's going to send out a poll, and we're going to be meeting, and then we will have additional conversation about examples that we would like to put forth for the IPDE items. So Robert, is there anything else that you want to add in there?
Janet, you capture everything beautifully, and I just want to thank you, folks. Janet has done a tremendous job. She's put together a great document here for the group to review once again, and putting all of our examples together. So I just really want to thank her for being excellent co-chair, and I really enjoy working with the group.
Hey, it's easy when the group members just really operate way up here. So, right. So there's our report, Patrick.
Thank you very much. Is it too late for me to change my work group?
I told everybody, it's exciting. Come on over.
Thank you. Thank you. Any questions from any of our full committee for the work group? Fantastic. And if you change the name, well, let us know. I don't know if we have to like bless that or official, but certainly we'll need to update it on future agendas. So just keep us in the loop on that. That sounds cool. And now we'll move on to our research group. And Jeff, no frills. That's a joke from our session. So if you didn't get it, it's
I get.
Yeah.
Indeed. We're all about the fun in the research group. Especially when talking about generative AI. That's what we pretty much exclusively what we talked about today, especially around what we can do to help the digital learning team at the coordinating board gather more information and data about the fast evolving world of generative AI in teaching and learning. And so we really zeroed in on there had been a pulse survey that digital learning had sent out last year to institutions. But there's a faculty survey that's in the works that would go out that they're talking about sending out maybe in March, April-ish, I guess. And we are actually going to come together as a group separately before the next LTAC meeting to talk more about what that survey would look like. We talked about what would be some ways to really expand the reach of the survey, get higher response rates, because it's really important to get a handle on this. We talked about how we can validate the results on those surveys with other data potentially. And so that's, I think, going to be our focus for the next month and a week or whatever it is till the next LTAC meeting on March 7th will be to dive into that a little bit. And so keep your ears peeled for that sort of thing, because that's going to be really critical, I think, because when it comes to digital learning and AI, the faculty are really going to be the key piece. As y'all know, there are faculty who are totally resistant to it, some who are indifferent, and those who are okay with it, and then there's ones who are okay with it and actually using it in their classes. And so trying to figure out where faculty are statewide around that, I think that's going to be really critical for helping chart a path forward, especially as, employers are saying and students are saying that they want more AI skills in the classroom, and are the state's faculty stepping up to that or not? And what could we do to maybe increase faculty adoption of AI in the classroom for different purposes? So that's really going to be our main deal for a little bit, is working with digital learning to figure out how we're going to construct that survey and get it out and get our response rates up so that they can get the data they need to chart a path forward. So stay tuned on that. Hopefully we'll be able to talk more about that, more substantively about that at the March 7th meeting. But hopefully we'll be able to put out a survey later this spring. So that's it. Thank y'all.
Great. Thanks, Jeff. If I heard correctly, Kyla, that survey, the faculty survey, is going to be conducted in conjunction with Bayview, who is also administrating it nationally. So we would be able to make comparisons with faculty in Texas versus nationally. Also, if the response rate's good enough among institutions. So we're going to talk about the strategies for how to make sure there's strong participation. Did I characterize that right?
That's right. So Bayview has a survey that they are sort of intending to do anyway at a national level that includes some questions around AI. And we will have the opportunity to think through whether or not we add Texas specific questions, and then also how we get it out to Texas faculty so that we have a large sample of Texas faculty, but we can also compare that to the national data that's kind of see how we're doing compared to everybody else.
And I'll add that one thing we were really, and I think there was a lot of interest in our group in is, I said, if if we can get data from that survey from our faculty at our institutions, I think that's going to be a great way to convince our leadership that we could use official comms channels to push the survey to get response rates higher. Because if we know we can get some data back about the state of faculty perceptions of AI at our campus and maybe even do comparisons across similar institutions across the state, that's going to be a really attractive feature to leadership at our institutions, and that'll also get response rates higher if we can go that route. So that's one of the things we're going to be talking about as well, is to see how there can be data sharing across a survey like that for all kinds of potential purposes. But
Absolutely. And I think the other thing that Kyla said she would find from our committee is there are some other research that digital learning wants to conduct over this next year, including possibly some student research, some research around the IT side, and with the new subcommittee that's being formed on technical implementations related to innovation, institutional update on their response to AI, as well as this faculty survey. So that's a lot of surveying. We want to make sure that we have those on a schedule that it doesn't get confusing for institutions and participants and those who are helping promote participation in them. They're like, oh my gosh, didn't we just do one? So that's the other thing that we will be talking about when we meet in a few weeks and just before our next coordinating board, our LTAC meeting. Sorry. Yep. Anything else?
I think that's it.
All right.
Yeah.
Fantastic. All right. So Luke, save the best for last, of course. I know y'all had fun too. Tell us about operations.
So if Janet's group is operating at this level, we're in the weeds and where we should be. So I think we're very balanced, right? So that's what I'd say. Your subcommittees are balanced. But I wanted to thank our 4 new members. Our 4 new members were very engaged. There's been over a year of conversations and they jumped right in. So I want to compliment them. I want to recognize Pam and Linda because they both provided perspectives. They're part of institutions that have submitted. So the group received feedback on the submission process. Staff took some notes on some improvements that can be made and will consider those. We reviewed 2 documents that are going to be used by our subcommittee and future committees to review IPDE submissions, and we finalized those, Patrick. We agreed to meet on the 14th. Staff will instruct us. Remember, we as a subcommittee have agreed to review the 4 IPDE submissions for 2025. So as an entire committee. So the 14th of February we'll meet. We'll get some instruction on how to access documents and responses that were completed. We'll set a deadline for ourselves to complete our individual reviews. We'll set a time for us to reconvene as a committee because there's one sheet that we are going to fill out as a group and provide back to staff. And the goal is to agendize our recommendations for the June 13th meeting, Patrick. So in the March meeting, we'll give you an update on where we are after our February 14th meeting. But the goal, just for everyone in terms of voting, is to agendize the recommendations from the committee for each of the IPDE submissions on June 13th. Just a comment, because in full transparency, we have 2 members of the committee that also have submissions up for review. We all as a committee are going to take all the measures to protect the integrity of the process, but we feel it necessary for those members to be involved, especially in discussions not about their colleges. So they provide experience and perspective, but we're going to use the technology to put them into the waiting room and when we'll be discussing anything that's pertinent to their college or their specific review. So I just want everyone to have transparency on that. Know that you have our commitment. I'm speaking not as Luke, but as the chair of the committee on protecting the integrity of the process. Of course, we'll report back on those measures, Patrick, on March 7th. So we feel like we have a good timeline. Again, February 14th, we meet as a group, gain access to documents, set deadlines, provide update back to this group March 7, and then bring recommendations to you and have those agendized for your consideration and vote on June 13th. And staff told us they felt comfortable with that timeline. So Poonam, is that everything that we covered? Is there anything else that you wanted to add?
No, I think you covered everything. It was extremely helpful to get the feedback from our members regarding the process and the document. And we have incorporated that feedback. So thank you, Linda and Pam. And I think we have made significant progress. So thank you.
Thank you,
Fantastic.
Patrick.
Thank you. Thank you, Luke. Thank you, Panam. Sorry, I keep leaving you off as the co-chair. It's not written down here, but now I've written it down. So I know you both are working to lead that group well, and everybody's contributing. Glad the new members felt like they could just jump in and run with it. So that is fantastic. Any questions from the full committee or operations?
It
And-
says Valentine's Day, like reviewing IPD.
They're gonna share the love.
Mention that.
So, yeah.
We will,
Non-romantic chair.
we'll accept Tiff's treats from the foundation. So if y'all want to, we'll
And
gladly accept them.
It's not an official holiday for any of your campuses, is it? Now, we were trying to schedule a meeting on the 17th following Monday, but President's Day and Houston Community College is very patriotic, and they celebrate that. So, and the agency is
To be
closed
fair,
on
we
that
do-
date.
we do too,
The
yeah.
coordinating board, they're also patriotic. So, and some of your institutions may as well, but we didn't know that on the face of it, and we learned something. So, yeah. Well, thank you for that report. I didn't hear anything that needed to be voted on. I don't know that we need to formalize the way that y'all have chosen as a work group to handle the institutional representatives recusing themselves when it is their institution that is being reviewed, their IPD is being reviewed. Anybody have any concerns or objections about that, or we'll just move forward? It seemed very straightforward to me how you want to do it.
Yeah, that's
Okay.
basically how we did it for the doctoral
Yeah,
proposal before, right? So.
very good. And it's on the public record and the recording of this and in our summary note. So I think that should be satisfactory. So again, thank you very much. So we didn't have any items that we needed to vote on out of the 3 work groups. Everybody is planning to continue working between now and our next meeting, which is March 7th. That is our next agenda item, is to discuss future agendas and review our meeting calendar. So our meeting calendar remains unchanged since we set it last year, March 7th, June 13th, and August 8th, remaining meetings for this membership year. And membership year ends at the end of August. So September 1st starts a new membership year. Several of us are scheduled to rotate off, having served our term. Jeff, I think you mentioned earlier, you're one of them. I think I am one of them as well. And that is barring being renominated and accepted by the coordinating board to continue serving, which is certainly always an option and encourage if that is your interest. So regarding future agenda items, we always have the standing items that like we have here with the digital learning updates and the SARA updates and House Bill 8. But we want to be mindful of what else may be coming. We do know the legislature in session, so I would like to suggest that we have somebody from Government Affairs come and let us know what's going on, what we can inform our institutions about, what we can help advise on if that's needed. March 14th is the bill filing date for this legislative session, so it's not far from after we meet, so we may not know everything that's going to be considered. And of course, we know that there are negotiations that things get tacked on, riders here and there, so it can change. And our next meeting after that, it'll all be, fireworks will be over. And we'll just be dealing with the aftermath, all the smoke in the air. So yeah, so if we could have somebody from Government Affairs come and let us know if there's anything of particular interest to higher ed and our institutions, we'd love to have that. And of course, I think we'd like to have Van back again if he is willing to brief us on if there are any changes with the federal landscape of regulations.
I'm not sure that it will be Van, but somebody from WCET. Van in his new position.
Moving on up.
He's moving up in the world. I don't know if
Stratosphere,
it will be
yeah.
him anymore. We'll get someone to come.
And I made that crack about this Jedi chair, so he's probably. No,
He's gonna hold a grudge.
not gonna subject himself to that now. Yeah, whomever you might get. Other agenda items? from staff?
I think we'll continue with the AI agenda item unless you all are tired of hearing about that. Patrick says never. Yeah, the only thing that I was gonna say is probably a legislative update, but I think. Okay.
Yep, and of course, if any of y'all are interested in attending in person next time, just let the staff know. We'd love to see you here. It's a great deli lunch that we order in. It's on your own dime, but it's totally worth it. Did you get your cookie this time, Andrew?
Got my cookie.
All right, we're good. It's good. The world, all is right with the world. So, all right, anything else for the good of the body? All right, so at this point, I do this often enough, I should remember. I don't think don't need a second. We just need a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
All right, two of them, so that counts. Yeah, all right, all in favor? All right, we are adjourned. Thank you very much for your active participation, your hard work going forward, and can't wait to see